It's just so wonderful to see the Worcester Business Journal and the supporting sponsors recognize family business, which, as you know, is such an important and integral part of our business community here in Worcester. I think in Central Mass there are probably a disproportionate amount of family businesses. I don't know the demographics specifically, but it seems that there are a lot of very entrepreneurial folks in Central Massachusetts whose families continue to run their businesses successfully. So I applaud the sponsors in the Worcester Business Journal for putting this program together. So what's a family business? Well, first of all, let's define it as one in which one or more family members are employed full-time by the business. It can be a partnership, a corporation, or any other entity, but for the most part, it's a group of people in a family working together. They can be working in a small group, small business, or be controlling shareholders in a larger company. One family business expert said that a family business combines the most rational human institution, a business, with the most irrational human institution, a family. And for those of you who are in family business, you probably understand that that's a little tongue-in-cheek because it is absolutely a challenge. Let me give you some family business data just in case. I thought Ed was going to steal my thunder a little bit, but I have a few more tidbits of information for you. More than 90% of all business enterprises in the United States are family-owned, and nearly 35% of those are Fortune 500 companies, and they're still family firms. So that represents roughly 24 million businesses. Family businesses account for 78% of all new jobs created, 60% of the national employment, over 82 million people, and 50% of the gross domestic product. Approximately 30% of all family-owned businesses survive into the second generation, and only 12% will be viable into the third generation, and only 3% of those will make it to the fourth generation and beyond. Now, there's an anecdote saying, for some, shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves in 3 generations, or rags to rags in 3 generations. And what that means, if you've heard that joke, is that the first generation creates a thriving enterprise, the second generation sort of lives off it and milks it, and then there's nothing left for the third generation, they start all over again. So we're shirt sleeves to shirt sleeves. But let's hope that's not the case in the situation here. 25% of the senior generation of family business shareholders today have not completed any estate plan other than writing a will, and 80% want the business to stay in the family, but 20% of those aren't really confident that the next generation is going to be able to make it happen. So that is an interesting dynamic where founders typically are concerned about the business thriving in the hands of their family. A family business really is a set of very complex relationships, and it is very different than a corporation. When the family is working well together and operating a successful business, there's nothing better than sharing the fruits of that labor and all of its related benefits with those closest to you. And those of you who are here and working in that environment can relate to that. And when the family's working well together, but the business isn't doing as well, which we have all experienced in our business lives, it's nothing but more comforting to have your family surrounding you in those times. Who better to get in the trenches with you to pull the business ahead and make things better than members of your family? When your family's not working well and the business isn't doing well, then that's an issue. And sometimes businesses are doing well and the family's not really getting along and the business is doing okay in spite of it. So there are different combinations. A 2008 study conducted for U.S. Trust, a subsidiary of Bank of America. You like that, Ed? There we go. By Princeton Associates and Camden Research reported that family businesses most likely to succeed were those that were business-focused, those that placed the needs of the business above the needs of the family. So-called family-focused family businesses were not necessarily those that were going to be as successful. And that's an important distinction in why I think certain businesses, including our own, were successful over the years. My story is very interesting. My dad, as Donna mentioned, Mort Sigel, who passed away several years ago, is a product of the east side of Worcester, first generation. Went to Worcester Public Schools, graduated Clark University after working his way through in 1951, worked for a distributor for a few years, and then with $4,900, most of his life savings, incorporated Millbrook to distribute health and beauty care and general merchandise products around the region. And he worked really very hard. And my mom came in, although she was a teacher, and working with a couple of children. She came in after school to help out and do all the things that she needed to do. And it was a struggle at the beginning, but Mort had a very charismatic personality and worked very hard, and things started to gel. I entered the business in 1977, 17 years after he started it. And at the time, his revenue was about $20 million. He was doing very well. And the interesting part about that is he provided his efforts, allowed me to go to college. I graduated Bowdoin College in Maine in 1975, and then went on to get an MBA. And he used to tease me about that because in his generation, he just didn't have the resources to continue on to get an education, and he wanted to make sure that I had something to fall back on if the family business didn't make it. Okay. Now, he wasn't necessarily going to hold me accountable for that, but those of you who are entrepreneurs know that deep down inside, there's always a little piece of you that has that concern. What if things don't go as well? And particularly when you're about to bring in a family member and you're responsible for that family's livelihood, the pressure builds a little bit. And I wasn't able to really understand that until much later in life. But in any event, I would consider myself to be a product of a successful family business. We work well together. We didn't always agree on everything. Nobody does. I think any family that says that it's complete la-la and harmony and happiness every single day without any solid discourse on strategy and how things should go would probably not be telling the truth. So we had some years that were leaner than others. We dealt with our share of growing pains and all the other crises that occur in the business. But one thing was interesting, I never really was forced into the business. So for those of you out there who have family businesses who want their children to come into the business, the best thing I think is to let them make their decision themselves. I really worked around the business. I grew up around it. He had me sweeping floors, running routes, driving trucks. And there were times, frankly, when I thought, why not some cushy office job? That might be really nice in the summer rather than working on Cape Cod, which, by the way, Cape Cod in the summer in the business that we were in was like 70-hour work weeks. And at one point in time, I called my mom to complain, and she said, listen, I'm a director, but I'm not going to save your ass on this one. You're going to work. So. But initially, my father was the reason why everything went well, to be honest with you. He had a really unique perspective and an intuition about how the family business should run, and how later on, several years later, my sister's husband joined our business, and my brother-in-law was there. And it's just a food for thought. A family business leader really has to be the lead person in how to integrate family members into the business successfully. And he had a tremendous amount of patience for me. He had to listen to me, tell him what I thought needed to be done. Of course, I was an MBA hotshot that he sort of helped pay for, and degree in accounting and finance, and I had done case studies and coursework and all kinds of interesting things. I did some consulting for the Small Business Administration, did some discussions of family business and enterprise, and of course, when sons come into the business, they want to move things along, and the biggest discussions we always had were how fast to grow and what we should do, and my not being satisfied, the exuberance of youth, not being satisfied, wanting to do better. And he would say to me, like, Bob, I just don't know how I was able to survive all these years. From 1960 to 1977 without you being here right at my side telling me how to run my business. It's amazing to me that I made it so long. Thank you so much for being here. So he was very, very patient, and what I learned, obviously, was that my youthful exuberance had to be tempered by experience. And he actually, when I joined our business, I was 24, he was 48. And I thought he was a little older at the time, but 48 is pretty young since I'm 55. But anyway, he really was able to relate, and he let me make my mistakes. He was very good about understanding that a son or a child, a daughter in a family business is a very difficult role, because everybody thinks you're just lucky. It's lucky to be there, and if it weren't for your parents, you wouldn't have a job. You'd be on the street and unemployed.